Well, welcome back to the Hartberghalle here in Bonn, Germany. And it's time for the medal matches here at the first men's foil World Cup of the season. Sorry for the late start on the live stream. We had some camera issues which are being resolved right now. And I'm Karen Bashir. Joining me in the commentary box, the Fencing Podcast's Sean Walton. Sean, what a tasty match we've got to start this final session.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, reigning Olympic champions in Russia, fighting off for bronze here against, well, on paper, supremely strong Italian team, but yeah, not in the final and having to battle out for bronze.
Yeah, and both teams are battling out for a place in the potential Olympic qualifying spots. At the moment, Russia sit in the top 4 of the current Olympic standings, and Italy occupy the extra zonal spot. Sorry, that's the other way around, isn't it, Sean?
It is indeed, yeah.
Pulled my points back up again, and it's Italy in 4th place on 152 points, and Russia in 7th place, but the top European team outside the top 4, so currently sitting in the positions that would have them qualified if they were there come April next year. So in some respects, one can say a fairly good day for the pair of them. No other European teams, or no European teams in the final. So they can't be overtaken by other European teams. But now this is as much about Russia trying to haul in the 16-point lead that Italy have over them in that Olympic standing.
Yeah, no matter what happens in this match, they're not going to do it today, but they can close the gap. I mean, traditionally the top 4 countries have included both Italy and Russia, but Russia's form over the last, well, really since the Olympics, has been pretty up and down.
Yeah, an interesting day for the Russian team as a whole. They've brought in the youngster, Kirill Borodyshev, giving him a chance to bed himself in the team ahead of Tokyo 2020, and he's done not a bad job today. Yeah,
he's certainly held his own, and I mean, replacing Timur Arsenov, who's been the sort of fixture in the team since Rio, but looking to give young Borodyshev an outing or two, I think, to see if he can take that place and provide perhaps a bit of solidity in the team, which Arsenov on his day has been absolutely tremendous. Paris at the beginning of the year, where the Russians won, Arsenov was absolutely immense, but it doesn't happen often enough, and I think they're willing to give Borodyshev a run to see if he can do that.
And he's done a pretty good job today, that's for sure. The other man we've got to talk about is former world champion Dmitry Zerebchenko on the piste for the start for Russia. He's been on the bench for most of the day, if not all of the day, but in this match they've elected to put Alexei Cheremisinov onto the bench. Now, I did see some issues with his back ankle a couple of times today. I wonder if it is an injury replacement rather than a tactical one.
Yeah, maybe so. I mean, Cheremisinov's a fixture in the team, and I don't think his place is in any doubt whatsoever. Zerebchenko, the funny one, a regular squad member, part of the 4, but very rarely gets on the piste. He does a lot of carrying towels and water.
Well, he's on the piste for this medal match, so clearly they have trust in him. Olga Mamadov, the head of the men's foil programme. I spoke to him earlier on today, and he was very open, actually, very clear about what he wanted to do. He wants to have a mixture of youthful exuberance and then the experience of the likes of, like you say, Cheremisinov, Tim Safin, obviously, a stalwart in the team as well, along with Zerebchenko. And he seemed very, very calm. On a day where tensions have been high in most of the camps, there's been a sort of air of calmness about the Russian box.
I mean, you can understand why. They're going to the Olympics, I would think, almost certainly one way or another. They've had a decent day here with, with at least a 4th place. So they perhaps feel that they can afford to experiment just a little bit and look to clarify what their best lineup for Tokyo is going to be.
Now, we are, I'm afraid, throughout the entire season, hopefully we'll have the pleasure of having Sean in the box more than one occasion. But we are going to, as we get closer and closer to that qualification deadline of April, we are going to be waxing lyrical about the Olympic Games, and that's not to the detriment of these individual competitions themselves, but they have so much more meaning in the run-up to in the fourth year of the quadrennial.
Yeah, very much so. It's the subtext for the whole season is who's going to Tokyo, how are they going to get there, who's looking good on the way there.
Yes.
And yeah, it's inescapable really, and it does add an extra layer of tension to these events.
And that tension doesn't necessarily disappear once those teams are decided and the individuals are decided, because then it goes back to looking at the world rankings for ranking for the actual tournament itself, because the unique thing about the Olympic Games is it is a straight knockout competition. So your world ranking counts right at the beginning of the day, as Garozzo takes, Facconi takes the Italians into a 3-1 lead, with Garozzo coming on for Italy and the youngster coming on. But yes, there's no pool stages, there's no ranking round at the Olympic Games, it's straight into the knockout.
Yeah.
So the story will continue to unfold. This is the sort of resumption, if you like, of the men's foil Olympic qualification, but it is the start of the 2019-2020 season.
So let's see what young Brodichev can provide against the reigning individual Olympic champion. I mean, he's been, I think, earmarked by the Russians as an undoubted star in the making. He's the reigning junior world champion, and making this step up now over the last couple of seasons into the senior ranks, and now getting the run in the team as well.
Yeah, he's fared pretty well today as well, you have to say. He's maybe not confirmed his place on the team, but I certainly think he's confirmed his place on the team for Russia in Tokyo. I think he'll get another outing at that next World Cup, and that is the test event for the Olympic Games as well.
Yeah, indeed.
Will you be going?
Sadly, no.
No, me neither.
I'd love to, but no.
Well, Fencing Vision will have the delights of Graham Bell in the commentary box in Tokyo. He will be travelling out with the Fencing Vision team to bring you live coverage from both the individual and the team event, and to give you an insight and the first sight of the Olympic venue for fencing. It feels like it's just around the corner.
Yeah, well, we get a lot of action between now and then, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see what it looks like.
Well, Borodishev coming into this with a 2-point deficit has closed this down. The target score of 10 looks like it may well be reached here, as Danny Garozzo, the reigning individual Olympic champion, is on for Italy.
Yeah, Borodishev doing a good job here. Takes Russia into the lead. Yeah, Garozzo kind of setting the pace, if you like, in the fight, but Brodichev disrupting and breaking up his attacks and preparation, and starting to do a bit of pressing himself here. And another good leg already, 50 seconds into it.
Just looks so comfortable. I was talking earlier on, Sean, about the fact that Borodishev was on the piece against Alex Macialis, who's a very well-known member of the senior elite in men's foil, and he looked completely comfortable on the piece against him. And look, with the Olympic champion also, well, bossing it.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, he is the real deal, and he's been in and around the Russian senior squad for a long time, since he was a cadet, really. medalled at things like the European under-23s when he was about 14 or 15 or something.
Incredible, isn't it? Is he one of these special ones that comes along once or twice in a generation, do you think?
I think it's too early to say. His individual results at senior level have been decent for such a very young fencer. They're also taking a tumble off the piste.
Yeah, there was a talk in the Italian camp yesterday about some of the scoring equipment being a little bit too close to the piste and not enough room for the athletes to sort of fall off and not run into. But Grotzo coming off the other side of the piste this time. Sorry, I interrupted you there, Sean. So you think it's too early to call? When can we start talking about a youngster like this?
Well, I mean, a couple of his peers in Nick Itkin and Tommaso Marini have medalled at senior level on at least one occasion, and Brodchev hasn't done that yet. So I think until he gets that genuinely breakthrough result, he's still promising rather than a confirmed real deal.
Well, I think he's going to be given the opportunity over the next couple of months, that's for sure. But I agree, there is a nice crop, and from different countries as well, coming through in the sort of the 2000s birthdays and even younger. We've seen a Chinese fencer here for the first time, Su, I believe his name was, and he looks like he could. Well, maybe Tokyo 2020 is a bit too soon for him, but certainly in the Paris run, he could be someone to look out for.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, there's a real exciting group of young fencers. In fact, more than one Russian. Brodchev, not the only one. His brother Anton, another one.
Two of them, yeah.
Milnikov, who I think took silver at the Junior Worlds, again another very strong Russian fencer. I mean, there's a real crop of them that could come through. Maybe not in time for Tokyo, but there'll be names you'd be looking out for when Paris comes into view.
Well, that is a beauty to finish off with as well.
Yeah, good work from Brodchev. That's a tremendous leg. 9 hits.
Yeah, 9 hits to 3, and he's shown the Olympic champion that he is here to play.
A couple more familiar faces coming on for the third leg with Safin and Avila.
We like to break these fights down into chunks of 3. Tends to be for me that the teams they don't try to keep it close, but they try to make sure that they don't, if they fall behind, it's not too far by the first third, and then you start to see the story unfold in the second third. Would you agree?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, splitting it up into thirds is a good way of looking at the match. The Italians probably looked at Brodchev as being the potential weak link,
yes,
as the newcomer, and yet here he's produced an absolutely stellar leg against Garozzo to give Russia a decent lead. And well, Safin perhaps might sense blood here. His young teammates give him a decent lead, and if he can have a strong leg here, they can put themselves in a really strong position for the rest of the match and give Italy a lot of work to do.
It's been up and down for Russia throughout the day. They've built up big leads, and only to have them taken away from them in the final third. Italy grinding out results from the matches that I've seen. Not too keen on racing away with the lead, but just getting it and just trying to eke it open, 1 or 2 hits per match.
Yeah, it didn't really work for them in the semi-final against Korea. They were a couple of hits up about halfway through, and then that was mainly as a result of a very strong second leg where Garozzo gave Son Young-ki a bit of a thrashing. But that was actually the only leg that they won in that match. So for a team of superstars, they are kind of misfiring a bit here.
Yeah, pressure on, that's for sure. I mean, you could argue, Sean, that there's a sort of mini advantage if you happen to come from in this particular weapon, in men's foil, if you happen to come from the Pan American zone or from the African zone, because the zonal points count towards Olympic qualification, and arguably the strength in depth really isn't in those two zones. Certainly in Asia now we're starting to see many teams being able to
absolutely. I mean, four properly strong teams in Asia with Korea, Japan, China, Hong Kong, and who have I missed?
Japan, Korea, Hong Kong, China maybe?
And China, yes. China, of course, yeah.
It's a long weekend, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. But for the African zone, Egypt are streets ahead, and they've done their job here. Made it to the last 16, finished. Well, I'm not sure exactly.
We hadn't actually got the finishing position, but 13th or 14th. I think they probably did nick 13th against Brazil. We haven't had a confirmation of that result, but yes, like you say, their job is to stay in the top 16 in the world.
Yeah,
and they will be the top African team, and they get to go. Whereas Europe, the whole point of this sort of foray into the zonals is that Europe have got 4, 5, 6, potentially 7 teams that could finish on higher points than Egypt.
Yeah, doesn't matter. They're not going to get to go. They're not all going to get to go. And I mean, USA have they'll almost certainly, they will finish in the top 4. And
that allows then Canada, as long as there's the next best team. Brazil are there as well in contention mathematically, but you've got to fancy Canada, who have a terrible day-to-day going out in 32.
Yeah, today's a bad day for Canada. They could have done without that loss to Belgium, I believe it was, in the 32.
Right, yeah.
So
by a single point?
Yeah, but
you'd expect them to win that one.
Probably yes. Yeah, you would.
But the point being that you're now looking at Canada and Egypt going to the Olympic Games with maybe, let's say, 3, 4 minimum European teams above them in the world rankings, and I think that grinds on certain European coaches that they've got the sort of 6th, 7th best team in the world, but the 15th team in the world is going to the Olympic Games. And then you turn your attention to the individual qualification. So there's a route that way through individual ranking. And then you look at the special zonal qualifiers later on in this season. I mean, that's tough for the European zone.
The zonal qualifiers will be an absolute bloodbath.
Yeah.
You're looking at 20 fencers scrapping it out to get there as individuals.
All with a decent chance of, or with maybe not an equal chance, but a decent chance of winning a tournament. So it's all about who has the bravery on that day. But here, technical problem has blighted this third leg as we are watching the bronze medal match at the 48th edition of this Men's Foil World Cup in Bonn, Germany. Yeah, so I'm desperately scrabbling away here as we're talking, Sean, to try and sort of get a proper full update on the results that we've had throughout the tournament, so we can work out, well, on a scrap of paper, what the net effect to the Olympic qualification standings are for the teams, because of course that's where we start for all the disciplines.
Yeah, our back of the envelope calculation was that with Korea making it through to the final later on, they will leapfrog Hong Kong into the top 4.
Yeah, Hong Kong coming in third in an automatic spot with 156 points. Korea coming in the top Asian spot with 136 points, so a 20-point gap. We've got Korea still to come later on today, but the points for first and second are 64 and 52. Now we know that Hong Kong have finished with 30 points, so they're on 186. Korea can score a minimum of 52 points. Actually, 188. 188, I think that puts them on, so it puts them 2 points ahead if they finish second.
Yeah.
Of course, they could finish first.
They could indeed, yeah. Could indeed. I mean, certainly they're... they totally blew France out of the water in the quarterfinals. Gave them a terrible thrashing. I can't remember the score, but it was not even remotely close.
29.
29, yeah. And then, let's say, a thoroughly convincing win against Italy, where they won, I think, six of the 9 legs. 1:45:37 eventually. I mean, that's
that's right. Yeah.
pretty comfortable result, really. And
up and down though, Italy weren't out of it until the 8th leg, but as soon as Korea got a sniff of the win, they just motored onto it.
Yeah, absolutely. So 2 very strong performances there. So you wouldn't totally bet against them putting one over on USA in the final.
That to come later. Here, these 2 European teams duking out. We can't really see this one changing much at the top, other than Italy and Russia pulling away from the chasing European pack. But bragging rights important, and Russia keen to take the victory here over Italy to close the gap up to them.
Really sharp parry across there from Avila. Yeah, neither side going to be willing to gift a win to the other.
When he wants to, Safin is one of the best attackers in the world of foil, for sure, for me. You don't ever see anything too flamboyant from him, but practical, and puts himself in the position to land these sharp attacks.
Yeah, he's an interesting one. After the Olympics, where he took the bronze medal in the individual, I really did think he would push on to become one of the genuine superstars of the sport, and it hasn't really quite happened. He's had some good results, he's had some wins, but not quite as consistent as I really thought he would be, and it's a surprise. I mean, there's still time. He's still relatively...
Yeah, no, very young. In fact, the team, this Russian team, could see him in for another Olympics after Tokyo, for sure, age-wise.
Oh, easily. Yeah, easily.
And again, one of the Italians falling off the side of the piste, and Safin looks like he's taken the Russians over the line, but there will be a review here, and then the matter goes over to the video. And I wonder if we're going to have our video replay system working here tonight. Oh, looks like they've already come back, and the head duck is given by our referee.
So it's a good lead for the Russians at this stage of the match, three fights into it. So Fukuni against Borodichev for the fourth leg. I thought his head from Borodichev there. Fukuni offers off his weapon for it to be tested. Nothing wrong with it. Hit stands. And having made a right mess of the reigning Olympic champions day in his first outing in this match, Borodichev may be looking to do something similar to world number one. Yeah, nice timing. Fukuni just getting into range, and Borodichev not being able to stop the attack.
So they've done it again, Sean. They put Borodyshev on for the middle 3 fights, so he gets his fights out of the way with just one. He finishes the first for the Russians.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he is in there as the third man in the team, and his job really coming into it would be to hold things. Really, that's your job as the third man. But then he's giving Garotso a thumping, holding his own here against Facconi pretty much. Yeah, doing a great job. Just exactly what Mamedov would want from him. Yeah, probably more.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's it's job well done for him already, whatever the outcome of this particular match. And we're likely to see him in the team. And I think it's what's particularly interesting, as we see the third Italian falling off the side of the piece, is that he's gone straight into the team. He's not sitting on the bench and
he's
being
not
a
bench
reserve.
warming. No, not in the cheering and water carrying role. He's been thrown right in there and doing pretty much everything that could be asked of him.
Yeah, great stuff to see. Young fencers coming in, being used straight away. Hats off to Ilgar Mamedov, the head of the men's four program for the Russian Federation, who is just brave enough to say, right, get in there, go and have a go. And I think a lot of pressure is off him as well because of the mentality in the team. He's not being shouted at, he's just being talked to calmly. The rest of the team have absorbed him in as though he's been there for a couple of years, and it's working.
Yeah, certainly particularly brave to do it at this stage in things. I mean, with the Olympics really just round the corner, to introduce a new name at this stage is, well, it's a brave move. We've got to say it is.
It's good stuff, and it's good to see them going for it, and it's great to see Borodyshev rising to the challenge. World champion from a couple of years ago, Facconi has scored 3 in this leg to Borodyshev's 2, and they've just got 40-odd seconds left in the fourth period.
Yeah, Facconi clocks up another a counter-attack there, but it's and that's fine. I mean, if he can maybe pick up another hit, 2 perhaps, to really close the gap would be great, but he doesn't need to. There's a load of time.
Got a very different style to the rest of the Russians. The attack is something that we see similarly now with the fencers keeping their points well away from the target. But when he's in defence, his arm is quite a long way out and keeps quite he manages to hold a little bit of extra distance.
Yeah, the arm's extended, but the point's actually not really aiming at the target when he's going back in defence. It's sort of pointing somewhere in the low line, kind of mid-thigh on his opponent. But it's enough to give his opponent enough to think about, that they can't just launch themselves in there.
Well, if the job was containment there, he's done a great job. He's gifted or given away a couple of hits to Facconi, but Russia come out of the fourth still leading by 4, and Borodyshev is still on a positive indicator, meaning he's scored more points than he's given away. Facconi increases his positive indicator to 4, by far the best member of the team for the Italians right now. On comes Avila up against Zerobchenko. You've got to think that the Italians have got to be thinking just another couple of points in this match. The target score of 25 is what they're going after.
Yeah, well, Zerobchenko immediately kind of ruins that plan by picking up the first hit. But yeah, you're right. You don't need to rush. There's plenty of time in the match, plenty of fights still to come, and if you can make a dent of a couple of hits, get things just a little bit closer, then that's great. So don't charge in there. Don't look to go, I can do this all in one leg.
Yeah. Well, the Italians are masters of fencing, both team and individually. This is far from over.
Yeah, I think almost as interesting as Borodicev's run here will be how Zerchenko goes, because as you pointed out, he's been a member of the team for a long time, but doesn't regularly start. And if he can produce a decent performance in this match, that may give the Russian coaching team a bit more confidence in them. They do always seem to have not entirely trusted him to produce the goods in teams.
And, oh, that's a nice hit though. Very sharp off the mark that time. Giorgio Avila replacing his weapon, I think probably more through giving himself a little bit of a mental reset than anything else. But that's an interesting point, Sean, because when I was talking to Ilgar Mammadov earlier on, I asked him about Kirill Borodishev. I asked about whether it's an injury thing. No. And we have others waiting in the wings. Then we've already talked about his brother Anton. There's Milnikov and Trochin. There's a multitude of options for them. So it does put a bit of pressure on Zerchenko. Clearly, it's already paid off for Kirill Borodishev, and Timur Arsenalov, as you've said, been put to one side for now.
Yeah, because I mean, Zerchenko, individual world champion in 2017.
Yes. Bit of a surprise.
Yeah, but he fenced gloriously.
Absolutely,
that day.
yeah. But that wasn't expected.
No, absolutely. And as soon as the team event came back round, he was back on the bench. And yeah, it's curious that when he does get an outing, and that's probably actually true in his individual career as well. He won in St. Petersburg in 2016 to get in the team, which was a surprise. He then won the World Championships, but still on the bench. His results, his individual results after he was World Champion, were pretty up and down. And then he took bronze at the World Championships in Budapest. I mean, he's one of those fencers that when he gets it right, he's absolutely glorious. But it doesn't happen often enough, probably for his taste, certainly for the taste of the Russian coaches, and it means he's still never quite been able to cement his place in the team.
Okay, so are we close enough now to the Olympic Games that if he puts on a show here, which he seems to be doing, and maybe in his other opportunities, maybe just in the individual results, because he'll certainly be competing in Tokyo, the World Cup in Tokyo in a few weeks' time in the individual, that it would be too much of a risk for the Russian coaching team to bring in another youngster along with Borodishev, or do you think that they're brave enough to make that call?
We'll see. I mean, Borodishev's had a pretty good outing here, and if he does the same in Tokyo, there may well be the temptation to go, well, he's the future of Russian men's foil.
Yes.
More than, well, really anyone of the team, one of the current team.
Yes.
So do you gamble big and go, right, you get an outing in the individual and the team? It's a big call.
It's a massive call. And you know, the good thing is that the Russian coaching staff will keep us guessing through till the end.
I'm sure they will, yeah. But it's, I mean, they've got a lot of options, but none of them are absolutely cast iron. Cheremisinov and Safin are absolute certainties, but then who's your third man in the individual and who makes up the team? I mean, it is a fascinating sort of subtext. Arsenalov's been trying for most of this Olympic cycle and really hasn't nailed it down.
Yep, and it's a subtext that we're focusing at the moment on this Russian team because Borodishev has been brought in, but it's the same for a lot of the teams. Who is coming? The French have dabbled with their team over the last 12 months. Some teams don't have the luxury of dabbling too much. Great Britain, for example, You know, they've got a young crop of fencers coming through, but at the moment there's a 4 that are fairly solidly going to be in the team positions, and probably 3 that are just on the starting list almost straight away. But there are other teams out there that do have a depth of riches.
But Russia going well here at the moment, certainly. And I mean, they are defending Olympic champions.
Yes.
And they do miss Arthur Akhmatuzyan. There's no doubt about it. That was a team that's not really changed. I mean, take Akhmatuzyan out, and Russia have struggled since.
Yeah, it shows that you don't have to be the star player to be the star player in a team event. You often see people outperform their individual rankings in team tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, very much so. Akhmatuzyan is a great example of that. He was he did the sort of third fencer role for Russia, but did it immensely well. He would never ever cough up a run of hits.
Yeah,
and that's just exactly what you want for that role.
Yeah, when it's 1-on-1, your job is to get to 15 or outscore your opponent in the time in the match. In a team competition, you could come on in the 4th leg with a healthy lead, and your job is not to let the lead disappear.
Yeah, exactly. It's an unglamorous role, but so important for teams.
Yeah. And it adds to the spectacle as well. And the accumulator system does allow for teams to claw back big deficits. It's looking very, very good for Russia right now, but one good leg, a run of hits from Avila, Garozzo or Facconi could put Italy right back in this at any stage.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, with Zerebchenko, who doesn't, as I said, doesn't regularly get an outing for the Russian team, and Brodyshev is a new face, it'll be a real interesting test when they've got this decent-sized lead. Can these guys hold that, or even stretch it out? I mean, that's what you're looking for from Zerebchenko and Brodyshev to do. I mean, Brodyshev had a great leg against Garozzo, and they've stretched out the lead, but the test now is, can they hold it?
Yeah. Well, 35 seconds left to go as Russia face another weapon change. It's been a feature of the day for the Russian team. I think in the last round they changed no less than 7 weapons during the 9 legs.
You sometimes wonder on the weapon changes, are they genuinely required, or is it, as you put it, a sort of mental break? Because otherwise the Russian armourer is going to be asked some questions.
Well, I think he will be. I can tell you that you've got to think that that there was a number of those changes in the semi-finals that were about resetting things mentally, but there were a number of that were definitely weapon or body wire failures. There was one body wire failure in there as well. So I think maybe the armourer, he might not get his bonus after Bonn. Lovely. Just goes to show, it doesn't really matter what the score is. The quality of these two teams means that you can see some beautiful hits like that from the trailing team.
I mean, yeah, Avila's a beautiful fencer to watch. I really enjoy watching him on the piste. But he has at times been, well, a risk for the Italians, and they've stuck with this starting 3 pretty much throughout this Olympic cycle, with Cassara sitting on the bench for the vast majority of it.
Yeah, that is it. That's almost a completely strange thing to see when you know what kind of record Cassara has. But Avila can turn deficits around big time, can't he?
Yeah, you absolutely can. I mean, he's
in the individual against Caddo, that was an interesting start for him. 7-0 down.
yeah, clearly that was nothing to worry about. Just offering a bit of encouragement to his opponent.
He went on to win that. I mean, a priority minute, but he got back to 13 apiece against one of the big names in men's form.
Yeah, I mean, Caddo's won things, and giving him a 7-0 lead is it's not what you want to do at all. It was it was a ridiculous fight, really, and Avila managed to dig himself out of it.
Well, he seems to be doing the same trick here. He's now scored 7 hits in this leg to Zerebchenko's 6, when Zerebchenko looked like he was running away with it, and the gap is down to 3, just closed up by 1. Well, as we said, that's the job for the Italians in each leg, just close the gap.
Yeah, it's an unconventional way to do it. Let Russia stretch out the lead and Zerebchenko look like he's totally in control of things, but with 3 seconds left, the net result is an Italian gain of 1 hit.
And space on the scoreboard as well as the clock. Will they go after this again? Oh, Avila does. Avila does. And, well, at that speed, he could get at least another one.
Yeah, there is time. This is the kind of thing with that I was talking about with Zerebchenko, is that when it's all working, it looks fantastic. But there is a hint of unreliability about him, and this is the sort of thing that will make Mammadov twitch about including him as a starter in the team more regularly.
-4 indicator for Zerebchenko, so it would appear that all right, and that Zerebchenko, he's at risk, as is Avila. Is a risk for those teams.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that leg could have turned out very, very differently. Zerebchenko got off the flyer, stretched the lead out. If he could have kept things together, that would have been a very big lead to take into the 6th leg. It's it's up and down stuff from both of them, and I think that's the Italians are persevering with Avila as a starter. Zerebchenko may have done himself no favours there.
Yeah, so some opportunities in both teams for perhaps the younger fencers to have a sniff, knock on the door of the head coach. I think I might be locking my door in the hotel tonight, because I know that the Italians and the Russians watch the live stream afterwards, and they regularly come and pass the comment. Fortunately, usually quite nice, but the Italians are staying on the same floor as me in the hotel. And Giorgio Avila, I think you're really good. It's Sean that's slagging you off.
Not at all. I'm a fan, and it's a reflection of the strength of the Russian team that somebody like Andrei Kasara, with all the things that he's won, is sitting on the bench.
Yeah. It's the top of the game in some of these big nations, including the USA and China now, is quite phenomenal. And you see a crop of athletes coming through in countries like Korea and now Hong Kong as well. It's nice to have the problem, but it also keeps your opponents on your toes. You don't know who's going to be competing against you. And I refer back to this young Chinese fencer, Su, who, look, we've got used to Chinese fencers turning up at fencing competitions, and we've never seen them before, and doing pretty darn well. But it's always still really nice, and it's a nice surprise to see Su. I think he's very, very young as well, coming to this competition doing really well.
Yeah, another one to keep an eye on was the young Japanese fencer that Marcus Mepstead put in the last 64. I think he's only 15 or 16 or something now.
Yeah.
And while Mepstead did dispose of him in the 64, to make that stage at such a young age is genuinely exciting.
Yeah, he was a very relaxed young man. No pressure, I suppose, on him, but still very good. I'm reluctant to say his name because it's not a Japanese name I've come across before. But
It's Imura.
I think it's Iimura.
Oh, you get pronounced both, yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't rely on my Japanese pronunciation.
Konnichiwa. You better get practicing because that's coming around the corner fairly soon.
So we're down to a couple of hits in it. And for the talk of exciting young fencers, two very familiar faces on for the sixth leg.
Yep, Olympic gold medalist in Danny Garazzo for Italy on the left, and Timur Safin, the bronze medalist from Rio 2016.
And this is a leg involving two fencers thoroughly secure in their position in the team, and probably both looking to make a bit of an impact in this leg, I would think.
You'd certainly think so, yeah.
And yeah, two contrasting fencers. The athleticism and the simplicity of Safin's fencing against the feel and timing of Garazzo.
Is there room to like both styles?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I love watching both of them.
It's interesting, isn't it, that you see that there is a very methodical approach to some of the coaching styles around the world, whereas other teams, both Italy and Russia are examples where you see different styles. Kirill Borodyshev is a completely different fencer in terms of style to Safin. Alessio Ficconi, I think, is almost unique in his style and doesn't sort of match up with some of the traditional Italian fencers that we've seen over the years. All have similar components, of course.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting the variety of styles that you get in these between the two teams, but also within them as well. It's a proper mixture of fences that you have here. And it does make it exciting to watch. I mean, all six of the starters here have got different things, different strengths, and that sort of variety is it's something that I enjoy seeing with these two teams.
As I say, variety is the spice of life, and that is what we've certainly got here in this match. And there really is nothing between them now. Where the lead was up to 6 points at one point for Russia, they are now leading just by a single point, and this is for bragging rights between the two European teams. And of course, the winner will be on the podium on the third step, picking up a bronze later on today at the start of the season.
Yeah, Garazzo's attack. Oh, I think another Russian weapon change.
That's only 2. The average is going down for them in this bronze medal match.
Still time. There was no need for them to change their weapons earlier on in the match when they had a comfortable lead. But now that we're all square, I think we might see more.
It's a solid point you're making, Mr. Walton. A solid point.
Yeah, that Garazzo attack when it's fluent and working like that is, I think, one of my favourite things in fencing. Yeah, that slow advance and hits that critical distance, and the speed of that delivery in the final action is, yeah, it's a thing of beauty. And Safin has now got to find a way to stop it working, to break it up. Because we've seen the lead switch in this leg, and what was a two-hit Russian lead is now a two-hit Italian one.
So between them, Avila and Garozzo have switched things around for the Italian team. Timur Safin had a bit of a shocker in the semi-final. In fact, he had a bit of a shocker in the quarter-final as well. He's struggling here as well. The pressure maybe even on Timur Safin. So he turns it into a bit of a scrap. Close quarters, gets back to within one. Still a minute to go in this fight, but the target score is now looking achievable. 30 points will see one of these teams through into the 7th leg.
Simultaneous action, both fences shouting for it. Nothing doing it. Back in guard.
So now it's the Italian box that are encouraging Danny Garozzo to call for a video.
Yeah, a lot of noise from the box, but Garozzo, a bit of pleading, but not actually calling for the video review.
Beautiful timing there from Timur Safin on the counter. I mean, would you, here's an interesting question, would you call that a counter or an attack into preparation?
For me, that's a counter.
Yeah, me too.
There's enough forward movement and threat from Garozzo there for it to be an attack.
Yeah, had he landed it, he would have scored the hit.
Yeah, undoubtedly. I did speak a little about this yesterday and about the sort of development of Garozzo's attack. It used to be so slow, but it has been forced, I think, by changing the refereeing to become just a little bit faster and a little bit more threatening, because he was getting that cold as a preparation.
Yeah.
At the start of this Olympic cycle, and he has had to change it just a little bit.
Beautiful. Really nice, fast, sharp hand from Timur Safin again, and Russia had the lead again. Oh, what a finish as well.
Yeah, a couple of, well, strong finish to that leg from Safin. He looked like he was letting things get away from him a little bit. A two-hit lead had turned into a two-hit deficit, but he manages to claw it back and finishes up maintaining that two-hit advantage for Russia.
Yeah, so 7 apiece in that leg. Danny Garozzo on a -6 indicator, meaning that he has given away 7 more hits than he's scored. And on comes Giorgio Avola for Italy, and he's given away 2 hits in his 2 fights so far. The final leg of the bronze medal match here in Bonn, and it's the youngster and team debutant Kirill Borodyshev of Russia who gets us off the mark. He is full of confidence, Sean.
Yeah, he will be, and rightly so. He's produced a really strong performance in the 2 legs that he's fenced so far. Picked up another hit at the start of this one, and he has pretty much been the star of the Russian team.
Right up there, that's for sure.
And there's another glorious riposte. A little bit scrappy there. And Avola takes a bit of a whack across the back of the hand as Borodishev's trying to take the parry.
You mentioned youthful exuberance, Sean, but look, this is balanced. This is composed, mature, way beyond his years, Borodyshev.
Yeah, exuberance, probably not the right word for Borodyshev. Efficiency and composure, though, are probably the 2 words I would use to describe him. It's a really mature performance for someone coming into the team for the first time.
Against the very best in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's as I said before, the Italian team is a team of superstars, and for Borodyshev to produce this kind of performance across the 3 legs is so mature. It's amazing, really.
I really am starting to believe, possibly too early by your judgment, that this I was about to say kid, this young man could be someone that we are talking about for years to come. I know it's early doors, and I know we've been talking about him being given a chance in the team. I'd say the performance today, as a one-off, would mean that he's booked his place on the team, not on the bench, but in the starting lineup for the next competition.
Yeah, I would say so. He's certainly going to get more outings than this from the performance that he's produced today. Not just in this match, but he put in a pretty strong performance against the world #1 team, USA, in the semi-final, and yeah, I look forward to seeing how he goes in Tokyo, and I suspect Paris, and quite possibly beyond that as well.
Tokyo again, yeah. We'll see. We will see. Well, they are having another review here. We had some technical issues at the beginning of the competition, beginning of this final session. I wonder if we can get a look at the replay, if they're looking at it again, of course. Well, here it is. Well, we know that we can get there. We didn't get there in time this time. Borodyshev 2 away from the target score here for Russia. Final action given for Borodyshev. Sean, I don't want to get too overly technical here, but Borodishev's transition from the low line parries, which he switches between octave and septime, back up into the high line, is rapid.
Yeah, I mean, looking at Borodic's technique, he's not a big guy. He's not incredibly rapid, but his hand speed is absolutely fantastic. And in that 7th leg, he's taken a 2-hit lead and turned it into a 7-hit lead, and really, well, blown Avila away. That's an incredible performance, because you're looking at theoretically the third fencer of the team, the new guy, and he has. I mean, that's an incredible performance. I mean, you might expect a match-up Avila against him to be relatively evenly matched, and perhaps hoping, if you're a Russian, to hold that lead.
Yeah.
But that's a fantastic performance.
Yeah, really, really good. Star player for Russia so far, finishing on a +9, Kirill Borodyshev. On for Russia now, Timur Safin coming into the fight with a +2 indicator. So he's in the positives, but so is Facconi, the best fencer for the Italian team in this match so far, on a +4 indicator coming into this, and he needs to do a big job against Timur Safin.
Yeah, it's interesting that at the moment we have our last match looking at being Zerebchenko against Garozzo. So I think the Italians would feel that they can make up this deficit, either in this leg with world number 1 Facconi, but Garozzo Zerebchenko is another one that Italy will feel that they can make up any sort of reasonable deficit.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, and I think that does give Facconi a bit of space as well, because he won't be asked to, really kill the deficit. Just try and claw back 2, maybe 3 points, and give Garozzo a run at Zerebchenko. But
yeah, give him a chance. Give him a chance. But it's a lead that's actually stretching with that hit rather than diminishing.
Yeah. So, and there's another one for Timur Safin, and this is what we saw before earlier. When they sniff getting close to the line, you sometimes see the intensity go up, and that's worked for them at least once today, and it went against them in the quarterfinals. They did obviously come through that quarterfinal match, but it'll be interesting to see whether Safin says, look, I need to hand over a bigger lead to Zerebchenko than the one we've got right now.
Well, the bigger lead's always nice, but
I mean, with in mind what you were just saying, that you'd fancy Garozzo to close down even a 5+ point deficit.
Yeah, I mean that's a little hard on Dmitry Zerebchenko, but Garozzo would probably fancy his chances of being able to do it. Yeah. He wouldn't want to have to do it.
No, I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is Dmitry Zerebchenko can go into the fight a little bit more comfortable with a bigger lead, and doesn't need to feel the pressure, and can therefore just fence. Do you know what I mean? Rather than have to sort of strategize. Yeah.
Well, certainly his teammates doing his best for him.
Russia led by 7 coming into this. The lead is still 7 points. Safin having a little think about calling a video there, but
yeah, I thought he might, but decides against it.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's good work from Safin, really getting his act together after a weaker leg earlier.
And it does tend today to have been really good in the simple stuff in close quarters. I mean, that's not even close quarters. You get within lunging range, and if you don't do something, Safin is going to come after you. And that 7-point lead is extended to 8 points. Dmitry Zerebchenko coming on to anchor Russia against the reigning Olympic champion, Dani Garotso.
Yeah, fine performance from the Russians, I've got to say, with really Zerebchenko and Brodichev, unfamiliar starters for Russia, largely producing the goods so far, Brodichev in particular. And,
yeah, just as you say that, guess who's come on?
Yeah. We'll go back to something more familiar to finish with Alexei Cheremisinov coming on.
And showing his intent right from the start. Early start from Alexei Cheremisinov. So the Russians have made their substitution. Perhaps further indication on a -4 indicator after 2 fights. Dmitry Zerebchenko has been benched by the Russians. And I wonder if he is scratching his head now and wondering whether he's going to get a chance in Tokyo at the next World Cup.
What's interesting, we can maybe talk about this at the end of the match, about how Russia might treat this for the next event. Because I think Brodichev has done a great job. Zerebchenko, well,
if they win this, they build their lead over Italy in terms of Olympic qualification. Might well be enough to be able to take a little bit of a risk and add another one of the junior team in.
Yeah, or do you give Arslanov another run?
Well, it's hard to say, isn't it? I would wager that if the Russian coaching staff have elected to put Arslanov to one side for now, that they'd be more inclined to test out one of the younger ones again. And Borodishev has done enough, I'd say, to be in the starting lineup for their team.
Well, certainly today's performance, and particularly in this match, yeah, he's done everything that could possibly have been wanted from him, and possibly, well, almost certainly a bit more.
Cheremisinov is capitalising on Borodishev's great performance, +9 indicator for the youngster. Cheremisinov comes on to finish the job off for the Russian team and is playing a blinder. He's scored 2 to Garotso's 1, and Garotso needs to up his intensity, but is Cheremisinov giving him the room? And now we may see again the assistant referees coming out. Cheremisinov's been called a couple of times today for ducking his head illegally, basically tilting his forehead over his chin. That's not allowed because it starts to obstruct the valid target area. Preparation from Cheremisinov, and it looks like we may have another weapon replacement.
I did tell you there'd be more to come.
You did indeed. The Bonn bonus is definitely not going to be going to the armourer from the Russian Federation. And Cheremisinov buying himself a little bit of time here as well. I've got to say, he did seem to be puffing quite hard after the semi-finals. So I wonder if he's partly been benched for those reasons. But he's back on for this anchor leg, showing the faith that Ilgar Mammadov has in Alexei Cheremisinov. 3 away from bronze here in Bonn.
Yeah, I mean, Cheremisinov has been the Russian closer really for so long that I can hardly even remember who did the job before him. And well, he came in with an 8-hit lead as a result of his young teammates' good work. And you would expect that he would get it done, but Garozzo, after a bit of a slow start in this match, in this fight, has closed it to a mere 6-hit lead and a lot of time left.
Going to look at the video on this one for ducking of the head. Cheremissinoff on the right. We're about to see what the referee sees. That does to me look like it's definitely going down. I think that is a card, I've got to say. Sean?
There's a twitch, but I'm not sure that he actually covers.
I think on that second action there, he does. What does Florian Jorge say? I think he's going with you, Sean. I think he is going with you. He's explaining to Garozzo. No, he is going to give a card. So a yellow card for obscuring the valid target area with your mask. You're not sure, are you?
I'm still not totally convinced, I must say.
So the tension has just, well, the temperature's gone up a notch there. I think Garozzo is thinking you need to call for another card here. And he gets the hit.
Yeah, the attack's good.
But technically he could be given another card here. And
yeah,
it could
absolutely.
be another point for Italy. Let's see, are they going to go to the video this time? There's no assistant referees or assessors as they used to be known. I think they're coming out right now. I think they have been called from the bleachers. Pascal Mage coming across the field of play. He will go and stand at the Italian end of the piece. And I think that's Wang Bo of China going to the other end of the piece. So Wang Bo will be keeping an eye on Garozzo. Pascal Mage keeping an eye on Cheremissinoff. Will this be enough to distract Cheremissinoff from the job in hand?
Well, Garozzo's undoubtedly on a roll, and the second card for covering for Cheremissinoff is going to be a distraction and something that's going to play in his mind.
Got to focus on the job in hand. He's got to keep moving on his feet, keep active. I think he's got to try and avoid anything in close quarters where he's at risk.
Yeah, certainly Garozzo's on a roll here, and
so big.
but well, Cheremissinoff's been here before. He's been Cardiff recovering, I'm sure, a few times in the past, but he knows his job. He knows his job is to finish things off. I mean, that's what he's there for.
Yeah, beautiful stop hit block. Oh, lovely stuff. Attack on prep.
Yep, picks this moment, one light, keeps the head up, no doubt.
Great stuff from Alexei Cheremissinoff, having got a card, having seen assessors come out, mainly to keep an eye on him. He's within one of the bronze medal for Russia here in Bonn. Garozzo's not out of this, and it looks like the Italians are going to call for another video here. And Florian Jorge, the Romanian referee, saying, I called halt because of the distance between the two fencers. Don't blow your video on this. Just one per leg per athlete.
Yeah, I mean, Florian's probably the best follow referee in the world, in my opinion, and certainly I would say has the best relationship with the teams and with the fencers. So if he says, don't waste your time calling for the video review here.
Oh, Russia!
But glorious work, yeah.
Beautiful final couple of hits from Alexei Cheremissinoff, and bragging rights on this occasion go to Russia. They've picked up the bronze medal here at the 2019 Bonn World Cup. Oh, Sean, what a match. What a match.
It was, I mean, it's tremendous. Had a bit of everything, really. The emergence of potentially a young star in the making in Kirill Borodychev. And that really was that's a genuinely surprising performance for me from the Russian team, who have looked so up and down over the last few years. Occasional amazing performances aside, where they do get it all together. Zerebchenko, yeah, maybe has really strengthened his case for a more regular start or not. Best effort from Garozzo to get the Italians back into it there at the finish. And, well, Cheremisinov is a thoroughly experienced finisher, getting his telling off, but getting it done in the end.
Yeah, it was a great match, and Russia do get the bronze medal here. They will be on the podium. I can tell you in terms of Olympic ranking points, they came into this with Italy on 152, Russia on 136. I make that a lead of 16 points for the Italians. Italy still a lead, but by my reckoning, that gap has closed up somewhat.
Yeah, I suppose the question really will be is whether Russia will push on into the top 4, into the automatic qualifying positions, which I don't think they will do.
Not this time around.
Today. But that's really the part of the subtext for the year is, will Russia occupy a zonal qualifying position, or will they push on into the top 4? And with Korea's performance today, replacing Hong Kong, I mean, it's everything to play for.
Absolutely huge. 176 Russia finish on after the points they've scored here. In terms of the Olympic rankings, this is not the equivalent to world rankings. They are different. 188 for Italy, so they still stay in the lead, but that gap has dropped to 12 points. So a good haul from the Russians in terms of that hunt for a place in the top 4, which will get them automatic qualification. And I think some of the European teams are going to be saying, come on Italy, come on Russia, get into the top 4 so we get one extra spot. It's an interesting battle going on, and we shall see how things go as things progress throughout the rest of the Olympic qualifying period. But now we turn our attention to a crucial match for Korea. USA are miles ahead in terms of Olympic rankings, and it looks like they're definitely going to stay in the top 4, but Korea have got a big chance to put themselves in the top 4 and overtake the team from Hong Kong. So presentation of the two teams. Korea up first. Song Yoon-ki, Hyo Jun and Lee Kwang-hyun will start in the starting lineup for Korea, with Kwon Young-ho in as reserve. Gasparia Mata and Pascal Maj will referee this fight against the USA. Korea face Nick Itkin, Alexander Masialis and Race Imboden in the starting lineup. Gerrit Meinhardt, who was on the podium in the individual tournament, is on the bench again. Sean, we've waxed lyrical about Kirill Borodychev. What about this young guy from the USA, Nick Itkin?
Yeah, an exciting talent. Medalist here last year in the individual. Didn't have quite such a strong performance yesterday. But he has medalled at Grand Prix.
Certainly has, yeah. He's right up there. The individual rankings, adjusted Olympic rankings, but he is a superstar. I was going to say in the making. He's not a superstar in the making. He is a superstar already.
Yeah, I mean, if you're if you're in the top 16 in the world rankings, I think that's a fair call to make. Very exciting fencer, and yeah, I'm looking to see how he performs in the team, which is not done so much in the last season, but looks like he's here.
Yep.
And it'll be interesting to see how he finishes that off in the final.
Young and hungry, been brought in a replacement for Miles Chamberlain-Watson. Greg Marcialis, head of the men's foil program, bringing Nick Itkin in. The start of the gold medal match here in Bonn, and it's Lee of Korea who gets us off the mark. Now, the key thing here about the USA is they have a very structured Olympic selection procedure. It's well documented that you can go and find it, I'm sure, on the US Fencing Federation website if you really want to get down into the nitty-gritty. But the bottom line here is that Nick Itkin's been given a chance in the team, and it's about whether he can capitalise and whether the foil heads think that he's a good mix in the team, because, as I've been told, we know what Miles Chamberlain-Watson is capable of in the team. He's a known entity.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, the American foil team has been totally predictable for so long, I think since 2011. And it's really only in the last year that Nick Itkin has made a dent in it.
This is results. The worst is 11.
Yeah. We're live. Close quarters from Boden. He's had an interesting couple of years, Rayson Boden, in terms of his coaching setup.
Yeah, there has been a few changes. Working with Stefano Cerioni now, a serial winner, former Olympic champion himself, head of the Italian team for an Olympiad, head of the Russian team last Olympiad, and now back on the scene coaching in Boden.
Yeah, sort of a bit of a Daniel Levavasseur, who's the épée coach who runs a program called Fencing Without Borders, and Cerioni coaching athletes from various different countries. He's no longer affiliated with a particular country, although you do see him in and around the US box, as he is actually here today. But Rayson Boden had a switch to Sergei Golubitsky. That had a run for a while. It seemed to be doing pretty well, but it was decided that the two would split apart. Sort of much like tennis, you see these top athletes changing coaches from time to time. But two big changes in a short space of time for Rayson Boden. He's the world number 2, so you can't knock him. He came into this competition as world number 2 anyway, and had the lead momentarily, only for Lee to snatch it back. Early stages, Sean, two very attacking teams, but with two very different styles.
Yeah, it's actually almost hard to say that there is such a thing as an American style. There's a range of coaches. Greg Marcialis, obviously the head of the American program, and rightly the best known.
The men's foil program, we have to say.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, but like you said, there's a range of coaches there, and it's, again, as the team and the depth of the team expands, it's Greg Marcialis welcoming in the personal coaches, as we're seeing across the board in other countries. Second fight here sees Son Young-ki up against Alex Marcialis, and yes, that is Greg Marcialis' son.
Yeah, Sun Yong Ki had a great individual World Championships, taking the bronze medal. But the performance of the Korean team here today has been tremendous, really. They thumped France in the last 8. It was a really big win, and then disposed of the Italians in the semi-final. France really have been one of the form teams during Olympic qualifying. Won the European Championships, won silver at the World Championships. So for Korea to dispose of them so impressively was, a strong statement and a big performance.
The thing about Korea is that they had a quite spectacular last Olympics, and before they put themselves on the map in terms of fencing. But oh dear, stepping over the back line, that's not allowed. Well, it is allowed, but you gift a point to your opponent if you step outside the 14-meter piece, and that's just what Son did.
It's a sore way to give away a hit.
Sean, the reason I talk about the recent Olympic successes of Korea is that they haven't really performed that great in the last 2 zonal championships when you consider all 6 weapons. Not up to the standards that we've become used to.
Yeah, it's surprising, but there is a real depth in the Asian zone. So at the start of today, Hong Kong were in the automatic places. Korea in 6th, so taking the zonal spot. But you've got Japan, who I think won the zonal championships, and China just not too far off. So, I mean, there's a possibility that, well, as things are updated on today's results, Hong Kong and Korea will swap. But, well, so many possibilities. I mean, you could conceivably end up with none of the Asian teams in the automatic spots, and only one of those 4 very strong teams.
And you make for another special zonal qualifying competition that is going to be ultra tough.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's so many possibilities at the moment. But Korea, strong day today.
Well, second place finish here, should they lose to the USA, and I'm not for 1 second suggesting that they will, would guarantee the minimum points they can get here is 52. 52 points puts them on 188 points. Hong Kong have finished the tournament, and their points gathered today have put them on 186. So, as you say, they switch places, and that puts Korea ahead of Hong Kong. But we have to look at the overall standings at the end of the day, because USA will stay as number 1 whatever happens here. Italy are on 188 points already, so should Korea get second place, they'll be on the same number of points as Italy and move into the top 4, but we won't know which order they are in until we start looking back at where those 2 teams have finished. If they finish first, they'll go ahead of Italy and move into 3rd place, which is the place that Hong Kong occupied coming into this tournament. It is moving around almost with every single phase of this competition. It has changed throughout the day today, which is why we've steered clear of really calling things until we've got to this latter stage. But here, Alex Maciales has continued the strong start for the USA, and this is a mark of this team. They are absolutely electric and focused right from the beginning of every single team match.
Yeah, the serial winners. I mean, they've been the top team in the rankings for most of, well, certainly for the last 2 years, and I think
for a blooming long time, I think is where we're going with that. Because a couple of years ago, they got the what do you call a hat trick of 5?
I'm not sure. I'll call it a clean sweep of...
Full house.
Yeah.
The full house of all the World Cups, but didn't win the World Championships in that year. But last year, might not have won everything, but they did get their first ever world title in men's team foil.
Yes. Maybe slightly overdue, but I mean they got the job done, and in convincing fashion as well. They are the top team without any shadow of doubt, and they've they're now so dominant that it's a surprise when they don't win. I mean I think that's kind of the key thing.
Yeah, and when you think back just 4 years, we were always talking about, the Americans were there, but Italy, Russia, even the French team starting to play ball again. But they're so strong now that they've got the headache of too many players for their Olympic squad. And this is because of this young man here, Nick Itkin, coached by his father, another father-son duo here in an international fencing arena. And he just is another one of these fencers that has blasted his way onto the scene in the last 18 months. The other American that stands out for me is the Sabreur, Eli Dershowitz, who, he didn't take more than a season and a half to get himself not just in the top 16, but right up at the top of the world rankings. And it's the nature of the culture of fencing in the USA that the fencers do tend to emerge quite young in that country.
Yeah, they seem to make that transition from being good juniors to outstanding seniors in no time at all. So here's Nick at 19, perhaps 20. Certainly in the top 16, the senior world rankings, and looking to clinch his place in the American senior team, which is a very, very strong senior team. And it's a swift transition.
It certainly is. And look, we are in the early stages here. We're not going to talk about every single hit. You can see that for yourselves. But, okay, I'm going to give you the task of marks out of 10 for Borodyshev and Itkin, the new players for Russia and Italy. Where would you put them? Equal footing, or would you say one's done better than the other, given their chance on the team for the first time?
No, that's a tough one.
I know. That's why I'm asking you.
Thanks for the question, Karim. Borodyshev had the, I think, marginally better performance of the two in their semi-final, but not by much. A couple of hits, I think. Borodyshev's performance in the fourth place playoff was incredibly strong.
The best of the Russians.
Yeah, incredibly strong, really. However, Nick Itkins looked like he's going to end up in the winning team, and that's hard to argue with. And he really has genuinely more than held his own in a team that's used to winning.
Well, okay, I'm gonna put it to you that the sum of the parts of the other two Americans in this squad, whichever two of the three you put in, at the moment is a stronger pairing than the Russian pairing. Let's put that to you. That is the case. Okay, I'm not going to ask you that. I'm not going to ask you to envelop that. What I will say is that what I've seen from both of them is that both of them have come into the team and they do not look like they're a missing part. As we get the video replay systems back up and running for us, that's wonderful to see. They certainly look like they've been part of the team for more than six matches or 5 matches.
They're right at home. Neither of the inclusion of either of them isn't in any way weakening their team.
No.
And
the confidence that they're putting with
today's performance certainly strengthened. Nick Itkin so far, well, let's wait to the end of this match, but it doesn't look like it's weakening things. That's what I would say.
I think you're right. I think that is not just diplomatic, but a sensible way of putting it. It's a different circumstance for the teams, that's for sure. Borodishev has almost certainly given himself a massive chance of being in the starting lineup in Tokyo. Jury's still out for Nikitkin, despite his great performance.
Yeah, it's a tricky one to break into a team that's already dominant, whereas, so that's the case for the USA, but it's not for Russia. So perhaps Borodishev's task is easier.
But yeah, and I know we don't want to just keep talking about this, but for me, in this particular case, that is countered by the fact that Meinhardt sat on the bench for the day. So he's come in and he's taken, arguably, at the moment on form, the best American fencer's spot. And he's still, as you put it, not looked like he's weakening the team.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one. It's a debate that I'm sure will continue throughout the season. Do you know what? I think it's a topic for your marvellous fencing podcast.
I'm sure it's something that we're going to talk about an absolute load. And I think for anyone that's interested in American men's foil, I mean that is the hot topic.
Certainly is. And if you don't know what on earth we're talking about, Sean is part of the duo, now trio, that bring us the fabulous The Fencing podcast. It's a really good listen. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you do, because it gives you up-to-date information about what's been going on the circuit, plus some really interesting exclusive interviews. And whilst you carry Gav through a lot of the podcast, you have brought in a sabre expert I want to say Kate.
You're absolutely right. Kate Dakin, British team member, has joined our podcast recently to finally bring some sabre expertise to things, and delighted to have her there. It saves me having to pretend I know what I'm talking about when it comes to sabre.
Oh, you've got much fun. And Gav, I'm only joking, mate. Your insight into epee helps me every single time I listen to an episode.
Well, you don't have to apologise. I'll not be watching this anyway.
Well, I think he might be now he knows you're on air. He does like to critique you after each commentary box appearance.
It's true. So, well, here we are, fourth leg, the middle third of the match.
I'm sensing you're trying to move on from the fencing podcast here, Sean, and I think you're right. This is a gold medal match. And a couple of hits back from Son, who is on form himself at the moment. And has he stepped over the back line? The referee, I think, is going to go and have a look at the video on this one.
Yeah, looked very close whether he does step over, but whether there's a hit before then is what the referee's going to go and check, I think. Pressing.
He's gone over the line, I think.
I think he has.
Looks like they're going to have another look at this now. Look how slow they've gone down to 10%. This is what the referee is looking at right now.
The thing is, this is a speed that they don't often use to actually work out what's happening with the blade action. I think what they're looking at here is that over? God. I wish we had a bigger screen.
I think it's over. I think he's gone over the back line.
So the explanation is that a tiny bit of Son's toenail was just about hanging on to the piece.
Interesting.
Yeah, less than he's now got on the piece there, I would say.
I mean, the thing about the replay system is it comes from a camera that's on the centre line, and so you get this thing called parallax error. It basically means that the angle of the camera doesn't necessarily show you exactly where Son is in relation to the line. And you get it with offsides in football and in rugby.
Oh, so unless the camera's absolutely level with,
dead on the line.
The line.
And that's why you see this CGI stuff in some of the bigger TV sports, where they've got the money to develop this kind of technology with 360 cameras. They can actually find exactly where a foot is, or where a ball is, or where a player is. And that's perhaps why Son got given the benefit of the doubt.
Not getting the hit there, though. And Bowden taking charge after a fast start from Son in this leg.
Now, does Racing Bowden pick up the right of way and hold on to it? Certainly, as far as Gasparo Amati is concerned, he has. And we're back up to an 8-point lead. And all of a sudden, the intensity of the match has just gone up.
Yeah, the kind of initial stages, perhaps feeling your way into it a little bit. I mean, both sides are pretty full on, but yeah, this is kind of getting to the important stuff. A 7-hit lead. It's a lot at any stage, but you don't want to, if you're Korean, for that to stay as it is for long or to stretch out.
No, certainly not against this strong American team. And Son goes for a replacement weapon, perhaps to just steady the ship a little bit, reset things mentally.
Interesting to see how Boden performs in the rest of this match, because he did look a bit off colour yesterday in the individual. Went out straight in the last 64.
It's a very polite way of putting he had a shocker.
Well, was it against Daniel Dosa of Hungary? Who's a fine fencer and looked in good form, to be fair. But it wasn't close. It
No, it was a good. I hear what you're saying. It was a big win for Dosa, not just in terms of the name that he beat, but in terms of the scoreline. He says desperately scrambling to find out what it was.
I'm going to put my money on something like 8 or 9. It wasn't close. It wasn't down to the last hit or something. Some narrow defeat.
10.
10
in the end.
Okay.
But there was a hangover for Dosa after that one. He hit the German wall of Benny Kleibrink in the next round and went down 15-9. But here in Bowden has taken the Americans to the target score of 20 and has outscored his opponent 5 points to 3. So in Bowden on a positive 3 indicator after his 2 fights, and Son onto a -5 indicator. We've seen the Koreans make a substitution earlier on today and bring on Kwon Young-ho. He didn't look out of place, obviously, because they made it through to this gold medal match. I'm wondering if we should keep an eye on that Korean box.
Yeah, I think it's a distinct possibility with a 10-hit deficit after 4 legs. You may be thinking time for a change.
So more equipment failures here. As the day's gone on, they have got a little bit more frequent.
Now, whose armour are you going to blame now? I'm pinning this one on you.
Touche. I haven't seen so many issues. First competition of the season, of course, so they've probably got some new weapons in the bag, and a mask clip goes flying across the hall. The bib of the mask is now part of the valid target area, so there's a wire that connects the mask to the lame to make sure that registers. How long have we had that now? That's a good few years.
It's a while. I'm going to say 6 years.
Yeah.
Maybe more, actually.
Brought in place because, well, the manufacturers of masks started to make the bibs bigger and bigger, covering the chest area.
Actually, when I think about it, it must be longer because bib was valid target at the London Olympics. So
it certainly was.
So but not in 2008.
No,
So
no.
I
think it was probably 2
so
years before.
9 years. Yeah.
2 years before 2012. So it's been in place for a while now. But the easiest and most efficient an accurate way of making sure that bib registers is with a mask wire, and obviously with a sword in your hand, they come off every now and again. Itkin on for his second fight, and as with Borodyshev, he's the one that gets all his fights done first for the US team, getting the youngster blooded, but getting him off the piste early and not involved in the final 2 bouts. But with this lead now up to 11 points, sorry, up to now 9 points, would it really be a worry for the USA to have Itkin even anchoring the team?
Well, the thing is, you're not sure of the score at the start of the match. You're not sure that you're going to be going on with a 10, 12, 15-point lead. Do you gamble? Probably not. Probably not. No, I think for a first outing as well, that's a perfectly reasonable place to put him, even if he was in the very best of form.
The question was asked because of the measure of how well he's performed. He really has done a great job ducking counter-attack. He just looks like he belongs on this stage, Nick Itkin.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about how mature Borodyshev looked on the piste, and Nick Itkin, yeah, pretty close to it. He's a little more excitable. He shouts and jumps around a bit more than Borodyshev does, which I sometimes think is perhaps a sign of a slightly less mature fencer, to be honest. But he looks totally at home in terms of how he fences and how he moves.
And it is different strokes for different folks, isn't it? You see some fencers who really look well within themselves and they don't show any emotion. Derek Latsova, for example, the Russian world #1, she shows very little emotion, whereas some of her...
Yeah, I think I may be attributing some of that maturity to Borodyshev simply because that's his personality. He's kind of calm and undemonstrative.
Yeah, and I think the sport needs all the different characters to make it, you know, an interesting myriad of personalities.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
On the piste.
Yeah. So we're in a bit of run of hits here. So let's see how Nick Itkin copes with this more experienced, very rapid fencer, putting him under a bit of pressure in the middle of the match.
Now, had the referee called halt first, Pascal Mage going up, and I think saying, I'd called halt for another reason, that hit does not stand. But like you say, Sean, a run for Lee Kwang-hyun. Seems to be nervous to press too hard past the halfway line at the moment. He wants Lee to come at him.
Can understand that. For all that Nick Itkin's quality of movement, and he does have a glorious feint disengage actually, the majority of his hits are still largely defensive actions. So I can see why, when he has a big lead, he's quite happy to see the fight happening in his half of the piece.
At the moment, Lee Kwang-hyun is doing a marvellous job. And the way this is going, with still over 2 minutes of this leg to go, Lee could put Korea way back in this match, having come into the fight 10 hits down.
Yeah, absolutely. He's on a run. It looks like he's got a feel for the right speed and the right rhythm for his attacks to draw Nick's counter-attack and still hit him. So to some degree, with that much time left and the way this leg is going, pressure's a little bit on Nick to actually find a solution rather than simply be, I don't know, sort of passively receptive to what Lee's trying to do.
Yeah. Containment not working, and that's what he does, just as you predicted. Changes his approach to the match.
Yeah, so switch from letting the action happen in his half of the piste.
Oh, that's a beauty.
Yeah, that's nice work.
So another test of his worthiness in this team, being met very well.
Yeah, so that was caught with another one. That was a good tactical development. He was prepared to press a little bit harder, lands with the attack. You can see that Lee's looking to attack himself, so he jumps in and hits with a counter time action.
Yeah, and that one not separated by the referee. They both lobbied hard for it, and Itkin just asking the referee for a bit of an explanation. Pascal Mash said, I couldn't separate them. That attack going through in the end. The first parry, I think, if he'd landed the riposte, may well have been looked at on the video, but he went for a second parry, opening the door for Lee.
Trying to go for the duck and counter attack again, but Lee landing off target this time.
Oh, really nice and sharp, really nice and direct from Lee Krang-Hyun. He's closed the gap to 6. Beautiful parry riposte to finish off.
Sharp work. A cool finish after a bit of pressure.
Hit his indicators though, came in with a +4, shipped 4 hits in that, so he's on a 0 indicator after his two of his 3 matches. Nick Itkin, Lee Krang-Hyun now on to a +3 indicator, and Hyo Jun coming on as planned against Alex Macialis. Do we think Macialis might come out and try and rebuild that lead?
You've got a lead. You don't need to press it. You know, why go hard? You're 6 hits up. You're just about to come up to 2/3 of the way through the match. There's absolutely no need to press thing. I mean,
does Macialis know any other way though?
It's going to be forward, but there's no rush.
No, and he does seem composed, as you say. And the referee going to go and have a look at this. Should we join him?
Well, think about how long Alex Macialis has been in the American team. He's still a young man. He's only, what, 25, 26? But he's been in the team for 10 years.
Donkey's years, yeah.
So this is,
for good reason.
Almost any situation you put him in is not going to be a first time that he's been there.
Yeah, and if you look at this, they're just looking for the final action. It does look like Macialis nicks it. But is it the body moving forwards or the arm? Referee's coming back out. And it is Macialis that nicks it. He refers to it as fencing with the dog leash. He finds the blade, and he just got his point miles away from his opponent. And for some reason, it's still enough to keep a threat on. And then he launches a super fast attack. Macialis builds the lead back up to 8 points for the USA.
Yeah, the thing is, I mean, we're all familiar with what Alex Macialis' fencing looks like and kind of what it's made up of, but it's still dealing with that. It's the problem. Koreans will go, well, see the dog leash attack. How do you stop that?
How do you deal with it?
How do you stop that? Yeah.
Yeah. It's
provoke it, get out of the way of it, try and parry it when it comes in.
Close the distance. Everyone's tried everything against him.
Yeah, that's right. So you're not going to come up with something new and amazing. Well, well, I may be surprised, but yeah, you got to deal with it, and that's very hard.
And even when he slows it down like that, and Hyo thinks he's broken it and he's got the right of way, Macialis just calmly finishes it.
That's
so
right.
He's got some variety in there as well.
Yeah, you set off thinking, oh, I'm sure I've picked the moment here, and then the point lands in the middle of your chest, and you go, oh, no, that's not right.
I didn't quite get the time then. Well, Macialis, he's not gone at 100 miles an hour, but he has scored 3 hits in the first minute of this fight to 0. for Hyo. So he's keeping the pressure on.
Yeah.
For me, is a para riposte for the Korean.
Is indeed. Yeah, it's pressured, but it's controlled pressure and
variety. But every now and again, he does have that little moment where he just loses his concentration.
yeah, that one just caught a little bit flat-footed. Hyo able to land his attack.
Lots of conversation with the blade, instigated by Alex Marcialis, and he's done enough with that beat to get to 29. The target score of 30 within reach now. Here, his father, Greg Marcialis, head men's foil coach for the USA, shouting, "You've got to work for it." The hits don't come for free, even if you've got an 8-point lead. Beautiful attack and a beautiful response from Hyo.
Yeah, that is the kind of thing that Greg would have been talking about. It's a cheap hit to give away. Not much foot movement. Hint of a slightly lazy counter-attack, hoping that your opponent would miss rather than doing something to make them miss.
Marcialis misses on the attack.
Yeah, done all the hard work there. Found the way through, found the right distance, misses the target.
I think Hyo stepped in on it as well, so it's as much Hyo making it so difficult, and Hyo gets another one, this time again in close quarters, and all of a sudden the gap's down to 5.
Now he's a hit away from taking the lead and there's a minute left. He's had most of his success when he's been pressing. Does he keep pressing or does he go, 1 minute?
Yeah, that's an interesting point, isn't it? And I think most people would say, all right, okay, let's back off. Now, does he pull out of that? He does. Marcialis had the right of way and then pulled his arm back. Hyo just went direct. Good defense by Marcialis in the end, and gets him the final hit. 5 points in the end for Marcialis, but 6 for Hyo Jun. A good performance from him. Came away from his first leg with a -4 indicator, so had to do some work to recover it, but comes out with a -3 from that fight. Marcialis, well, he started with a +2 indicator, loses one of those positives, but still in the positive as Son Young-ki comes on against Nick Itkin, and this is perhaps where Korea will think they can do some damage, although Son has not had the best match so far.
Now the mid fight one where we had Nick Itkin on and we're talking about testing his mettle. This really is the one. The gap's smaller than it was. Down to the third last fight, real critical win or lose stages, and let's see how he handles it.
The Son off to a flyer, and I think that we are going to see Son keeping the pace up unless Nick Itkin says, I'm not having that, and that's exactly what he's done.
Yeah, I think we're going to see fewer backward steps. Nice hit. Lovely timing. I think looking for the same timing there as he did with the last hit, but was just fractionally late. That looks more like a Son miss than something gloriously creative from Itkin. He does stretch the lead back out to 7 hits.
Well, that looked like it was a simultaneous action and no light came up for Son.
Yeah, that seems a perfectly legitimate reason to hand over your weapon. But he may want a moment or two to think about what he's going to do for the rest of this leg. Son back with a new weapon.
So it was a potential opportunity for Korea. They may have identified this fight as one where they could either build a massive lead or fight back from a deficit. But Nick Itkin had other ideas and finishes it off. Absolutely stunning performance from the debutant for the USA.
Yeah, that was very good work actually. Under a little bit of pressure, lead dropped to 4 hits at one stage in that leg, but comes out of it with a 9-hit gap as we go into the last couple of legs. So I suppose I can give my mark out of 10.
Go for it.
Which I held off to the end of, well, not quite the end of the match actually, but at the end of his direct involvement for Nick Itkin. Slight wobble in the middle. 8 out of 10 in terms of cementing things.
Yeah, +9 Borodyshev got in the bronze medal match, +8 for Nick Itkin. Really good stuff from the two young fencers who have joined their teams for the first time here at the Bonn World Cup. But the job is not done for the USA just yet. Hyo Jun coming on for Korea up against Race and Bowden, perhaps with something to prove after his disappointing by his standards individual performance. Penultimate leg of the gold medal match.
So what to do for Hyo, obviously, a 9-hit gap. You've got to feel that if he's going to give his teammate a chance, that that gap's going to have to come down, probably to within 4 or 5, would you say, to give...
I think even more, perhaps. It's a big ask for Korea, but they're not out of it.
No, absolutely not. I mean, got one back already. Whole load of time on the clock.
Ever the optimist.
Fencing a Race and Bowden who perhaps not in the best form based on his individual result.
Yeah, I saw a big strapping on one of his ankles as well on the individual qualification day when he was coming in to warm up. And it looked like a significant strapping, although I didn't see any obvious signs of poor movement.
Yeah, didn't limp into the arena or anything, no. Yeah, if you're Korean, you might still fancy your chances.
Well, I fancy they will. They certainly won't give up, that's for sure. They were behind in the semi-final match and they got themselves right back in it.
To be fair, it was a 3-hit gap after the second leg.
It was a little earlier in the match, but
rather than 10 in the second last. It is a little different. I mean, they've nothing to lose at this point, so perhaps looking to claw back a hit or two is not the way to go. You've perhaps got to gamble big.
Yeah, I think so. But I think they'll still leave it till the last minute of this match before they start going too crazy. We shall see. It depends on what Hyojun has been instructed to do by his coach and his teammates. Now, starting from too far away against Rayson Bowden is suicide, I'm afraid.
This does look like a situation where Bowden feels in control of things. Even when he scores a hit, there's no shouting or no demonstration of emotion. It's just business as usual, and let's get this job done and we can go for dinner.
Yeah, I think Hio also though is saying, right, let's just contain for now, and we'll throw the kitchen sink at it in the last 60 seconds or so. You'd rather be in Bowden's shoes, though.
Yes, undoubtedly.
He's looking for those little moments. He's keeping the distance close, the Korean. Waiting to pounce. Ten hits, the lead for the USA with just half of the penultimate leg to go. This is where Hio now has to start to press a little bit. And will Bowden continue to push and press himself? Well, if Hio goes off the line like that without preparing his attack, then Bowden's going to pick him off every time.
Yeah, those last two hits actually were quite insightful. Bowden pretty much standing still and getting hit with a very, very simple attack, and it was just a little sort of wake up they needed, so that when Hio went too fast, too direct, and the next one he was awake and ready for it.
Certainly was, and we are still with a 10-hit gap between the two teams. It looks like the Americans will race to the target score of 40 and on to the gold medal. Right away with Hyojun, so the off-target lamp is the thing that stops the fight. No hit given.
Yeah, it was kind of a bit of clumsiness from both sides there. Bowden not quite in position to make the attack, and when it failed, Hio wasn't quite in a position to take up his own attack. But Bowden getting the job done and finishing the leg off with a big lead, and well, something miraculous from Korea.
Going to need to be, isn't it? I think the 12-hit gap with Alex Marcialis coming on to anchor for the Americans is a massive ask for Lee Kwang-hyun. It's looking like the USA will start the new season with a gold medal performance at the first World Cup and continue building their enormous lead at the top of the Olympic rankings. It may even be that this result may mathematically secure their position in the top 4.
I hadn't even considered that as an option, but yeah, it must be a possibility, because they had 100+ lead, I think.
Well, certainly over Canada, 150 points ahead of their next best Pan American team, but nearly a 50-point lead over second place France in the Olympic rankings, and picking up another bag of points here, 64 of them.
It can't be far off at 120 points ahead of Egypt and Korea and Russia, who were the three teams all on 136 points at the start of the day, but outside the top four. I haven't got my calculator with me, but it's yeah, you're probably right that the other teams are going to run out of events where they could actually stop the United States finishing in the top four. It's yeah, I'll call it now. United States are going to the Olympics as one of the automatic qualifiers. There you go.
I'm glad you're brave enough to do that.
I know, it was heroic, wasn't it?
They will finish, if they win this, on 320 points in the Olympic rankings. And at Macialis, it looks like he's adamant about making sure that happens.
Yeah, no easing up. Let's just get the job done. Claim yet another Team World Cup title. Retain their title from last year here in Bonn. And really reinforce their position as the dominant team, even if it was a slightly new looking one.
Yeah, pressure off, gives them room to continue experimenting, that's for sure. Korea looking like they will get the 52 points for second place, taking them up to 188 on the same score in terms of points as Italy. Just one more for the USA to hear their national anthem for the first time, of asking in the 2019-2020 season. Well, it's that one action on the riposte. It's being considered by the referee. Pascal Mage coming back to give his final decision. First riposte is no, but then there's nothing from the Korean. The USA have taken a very confident victory here in Bonn. They have beaten Korea handsomely to take gold at the 48th Bonn World Cup. Sean, really dominant performance, new boy in the team, just a really solid performance from the USA. But first, let's just talk about Korea. They've really come back here at this tournament. They've beaten some big teams, and they showed that they can play with the Americans.
Yeah, they did at times. Final didn't really go their way, and as you say, USA were as dominant as you might expect. But yeah, their wins against France and Italy really show that the Koreans are genuine medal contenders come Olympic time, because they're two of the favourites, if you like, that they've beaten in pretty convincing fashion. And while the final didn't go their way, great performances for Hong Kong, for Korea rather, to make the final.
And the USA?
What can you say? They keep winning. They changed their personnel at the start of the season to give Nick kind of run in the team and assess how he performed, and more convincing wins. It's hard to see past them at the moment as Olympic champions in waiting. And
I've done the maths. USA, France, Italy and Korea now occupy the automatic spots in the Team Olympic rankings. Hong Kong move from the top four, but they move down into fifth position, but occupy the additional Asian zonal spot. Russia maintain their hold on the European spot, but do move up in the ranking list. Japan are in there, but of course Hong Kong are still in that strong position. So it's Egypt who qualify next, and then we have a real conundrum because you have two teams from Europe and two teams from the European zone tussling it out for what could be a final spot, but Canada are the ones with the Pan Am spot a few points down below them.
Yeah, there's still an awful lot of season to go. I confidently stated it earlier on, USA are going. Beyond that, how the rest of the 8 teams that qualify, and that's also considering the possibility that Japan, if they don't qualify through the zonal routes, will use their host nation places to make up 9 teams at the Olympics. Almost any possibility out of the teams that we've mentioned today could be going to Tokyo.
Well, the big takeouts from here, USA, subject to final confirmation, have almost certainly cemented their place in the top 4 and will be at the Tokyo Olympic Games in the men's foil category, both in team and individual. Korea have jumped over Hong Kong into the automatic spots, but Hong Kong occupy the Asian zonal spot, and it's all to play for in Europe and Asia for the other spots, as long as Egypt and Canada don't drop or don't stay in the top 16. All to play for still. But Sean, it's been an absolute pleasure having you in the commentary box on this production for Fencing Vision. If you want to hear more from Sean, please do subscribe to the Fencing podcast. Might hear more from him than you will from me in the near future. Sean, thank you so much for your time.
Absolute pleasure to be here. Glorious weekend of fencing, and yeah, really looking forward to the rest of the season.
Brilliant stuff. That's Sean Walton from the Fencing Podcast, bringing you his insight into men's foil here at the Bonn World Cup. Don't go too far. I'll be back to bring you the medal ceremonies just as soon as the podium is set up here in Bonn. The final action will be the medal ceremonies coming up in around about 5 to 10 minutes' time.
We ask all fencers to come to the podium for the medal ceremony.
dieser Schauf, der wiegt 85.000 Euro.
Please, all fencers come to the podium. Löweverband 2019.
Well, here we go. It's time for the medal ceremony here at the team day of the 48th Bonn World Cup, the Lion of Bonn. In third place, it's the team from the Russian Federation. Alexei Cheremisinov, Dmitry Izerevchenko, Timur Safin, and the youngster, the debutant Kirill Borodashev, who performed so well here in Bonn.
Second place and silver for
In second place, they're back on form here at the first World Cup of the new season. It's Korea, Son Yin-ki, Hyo-jun, Lee Kwang-hyun, and Kwang Young-ho, who played his part today, even though he was benched for the gold medal match.
and winner of the Team World Cup event 2019, Loewe von Bonn.
And the gold medalist on team day here in Bonn is the USA, Gerrit Meinhardt, Race Mboden, Alexander Macialis, and the debutant for the USA, Nick Itkin. He had quite a phenomenal day and comes away from his first appearance on a US team with a gold medal here in Germany. Well, we leave you with these beautiful pictures of the medalists, and we will, of course, leave you with the national anthem. Next up for Fencing Vision will be a double header. Tristan heads off to Bern for the Men's Épée World Cup, the first one of their season, and I will be in Orléans for the first Women's Sabre World Cup, that in the 22nd to the 24th of November. So I'll leave you with the national anthem. Thanks for joining us here in Bonn.
And now it's time for photos. We want to say thank you and goodbye and hope to see you next time in Bonn.